What's up, 4for4? We're back with the DFS MVP podcast for week 4. This is going to be a tournament focus show. We asked for feedback last week on the structure. We made a little bit of a change last week from going position by position to game by game. Got really mixed feedback on what people prefer. Ultimately, what I've landed on for this show, and we're still willing to adjust going forward. We have a split amongst us about what we want to do. For this show, we are going to do game by game and then just give a synopsis at the end. Some of the feedback we got was when we go game by game, you don't really know, which players we're leaning into. So I thought we'll give I think the best of both worlds, go game by game. We're going to try and do it a little bit quicker this week. And then at the end, talk about just some of our favorite plays after, kind of a synopsis of what we've talked about throughout the show is going to be the plan for this one. I'm, of course, here with Davis Maddock and Pat Corraine. I'll start with Davis. How did last week go for you? How are you feeling about this week?
Tournaments went all right. I mean, I didn't have a big sweat or anything. It was just one of those slates. I did not play any Juwan Jennings. Kind of thought Juwan Jennings at 14% in single entry stuff was like almost like legendarily bad. Like almost like one of the I don't know. It's kind of one of the things of the game is sometimes you are the hammer and sometimes you are the nail. And I was happy to go through a week of not being the hammer for sure.
It was definitely brutal for me when I saw Juwan Jennings going off and then looked at the ownership and I was like, how the hell did Juwan Jennings get up to that much ownership? So I actually had some Juwan Jennings. I think I was actually not that far off from the field, but that's because I thought he was going to be a contrarian play. That was very much not the case.
There were two sites that people used to generate lineups that if you excluded Cam Akers, Juwan Jennings was in their optimal lineup, which meant that a lot of people clicked him and he simmed well. So if you do any kind of sim stuff, you were going to get a lot of Jennings.
Yeah. Pat, how about you? Any luck last week? How are you feeling about this week?
Yeah, I had I was like 20th in the big SPY after the 1 p.m. window. And there were like a lot of people ahead of me, like, we're done. So I was like, okay, this is a fun sweat. And I had a Caleb double with Rome and DJ Moore. I had Barkley. And so, but I was in like a pretty good position with Charbonnet left, Jake Ferguson left, and Jordan Mason left. But I was like, man, if Olave had actually, because he got that late touchdown, I was like, if Olave had actually flopped,
you would have swapped.
Do I late swap to Jennings?
Oh, right.
So my lineup was a little too good. I stayed, I was like in a perfect spot where I didn't need to late swap. But, unfortunately, a little too good.
Neil, you'll appreciate this. I late swapped to Jennings in cash.
Ooh,
before the Olave touchdown and before Hurts got the bonus. So Olave scores, Hurts completes the 60-yard pass to Goddard. So that's like what, plus 17 points for my lineup in 3 plays. So I was like, all right, I'm going to swap back.
Oh God. Did you end up cashing?
My team was fine, but it would have been like, it was swapping to Kyron and Jennings from Ayuk and Charbonnet.
Oh yeah, that would have been helpful.
So like 40 points or 60 points. Yeah,
just
a lot of points.
Just a whole lot of points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, last week was overall lost money. Was looking really bad for a little while. I was like, Rome Odunze was my flag plant of the week last week, so I felt that went really well. But then the more and more content I did, the more I talked myself into the Gardner Minshew double stack, which just completely flopped. That was just awful. And Juwan Jennings, like, if you didn't have Juwan Jennings, any lineup you had without Juwan Jennings was completely dead. So there were more things that went wrong for me than things that went well. So ultimately lost money last week, which going to lose money most weeks. Just kind of the name of the game. But the Niners was also the big one for like cash games. It was a lock to play Brandon Ayuk and Jordan Mason against the Rams. Just felt so obvious. And then Juwan Jennings just got everything.
He stole all the points.
Stole all the points. So did not go that great for me last week. But enough about last week. Let's move on, talk about this week, and we can start with the pretty low scoring expected game. Steelers at Colts. Steelers have an implied team total of 20.75. Colts have an implied team total of 19.25. So pretty low scoring game here. Maybe we can find a few pieces that we like here. Pat, I'll go to you first. Anybody that you particularly like from the Steelers and Colts game?
This game is not one I'm especially excited about, to be honest. I mean, I think you're going to be looking at the Colts trying to be run heavy here, but then the Colts are also a run funnel. It's maybe a little early to declare a team a run funnel, but I feel confident in saying that you can run on the Colts and that the Colts aren't very likely to push you off of a run heavy game script because they're going to be tilted to run themselves. And Richardson, while he can hit some big plays, is just the consistency just isn't there. So, it's unlikely that you're going to be down like 24 early in the game or something and just have to abandon the run. And then obviously the Steelers want to run the ball. So like play volume here is just not really that enticing. The one play, I guess, is Najee Harris because we're looking at Jalen Warren with this knee injury and volume should consolidate his way. And he has a 13% target share this season. He's been getting more work as a receiver with Warren not healthy. But like the Steelers running game isn't very good. They're 30th in rushing success rate. And this is like with Justin Fields and Arthur Smith. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not all that excited about it, but Najee certainly will project well with Warren out.
Yeah, I think Najee is from the Steelers side of the game the most obvious play. I don't know that he could get to the passing game potentially just because the Colts have been so bad defensively. Davis, how are you feeling about this game? Anybody you like?
I probably won't have anyone from this game in my runs. Like I prefer Aaron Jones and Brian Robinson Jr. like quite a bit to Najee Harris. Najee in my runs is getting in 7% of the optimal lineups, but coming in at about 15% owned, which is like your classic. He's a good points per dollar play. Everyone knows him. There's no one on the team who's going to take any carries from him. He's like a really good bet to get 18 here, but a pretty bad bet to get 28. And that is like, it's like the Cam Akers thing from last week. Like Akers was a pretty good bet to get 10, but he was a pretty bad bet to get 20. And that really is going to cap your upside in the individual lineup.
But and he's not priced below 5K. Like he doesn't open stuff up. He's 5,600 on DraftKings.
Yeah,
I do got one take here is that like every week Richardson has ever played, he's been like a top 3 optimal rate quarterback. This is my first week ever seeing Sims not want to play Anthony Richardson. I don't really think the thesis on Anthony Richardson has ever changed, and I think matchup does not matter for him. Either he's completing a 65-yard pass with the defender draped off of his ankle, or he's not. And it doesn't matter who the defenders are when that happens. So I don't know. If I'm going to make 10 teams in single entry stuff this weekend, I might make one Richardson.
I was noting before we started here that I did my whole game by game breakdown, which by the way, I put that in chat if anybody wants to follow along. Going to go with the games in the order of how I wrote them up. But I started at, including a lot of players in the early game that I was like, hey, he looks pretty good, point per dollar. This looks like a solid play. And then the deeper I got into it, there's just so many good running backs on the slate where Najee Harris, I think in this spot would look really good on some slates, but on this slate, we just have so much. Week. Yeah, we just have so much great running back value on the slate that makes it harder to prioritize Najee Harris. The only other players that I mentioned, and I'll throw them out there, Justin Fields, George Pickens, I think are playable just because the matchup is so good. We haven't really seen the spike week yet, but George Pickens' separation scores have been pretty good. I think that they're capable of just taking advantage of a bad defense. So I think that for like large field GPPs, they make some sense as just, you can totally see the upside with Justin Fields and George Pickens against a bad defense. And then Freiermuth actually had a bigger role last week. It's been increasing every week. 82.9% route participation and 5 targets last week for Pat Freiermuth. So I think he's like vaguely in play for large field GPPs. Maybe another stacking option if you want to go to Fields. No huge priorities there. Just large field stuff.
I just want to on Pickens with the separation stuff. So ESPN's open score just got released late this week, and he's wide receiver 2 in that metric. When he came in the league in 2022, he was not good in that. And then he took a big step forward last year. And now he's taking a big step forward again, small sample. Maybe last year is closer to the truth, but it's still encouraging, especially because, he's had plays called back due to penalty and stuff and, hasn't kind of hit the box score in the way we're hoping yet. But I like that call as some, underpriced potential.
Yeah, at least somebody to consider. Shocky Doc says Nick Underhill reported an Olave hamstring today at practice. This is the trouble with doing content throughout the week. Like I do this whole game by game write up, and I'm like, I got to go back and change so many things.
He's not going to play. Hamstring on Friday.
Not good. Yeah,
not going to play.
No.
Yeah, not a great thing there. we'll talk about that, I guess, more when we get to that game. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings at Green Bay Packers. Davis, I know you say it every week, but how do we always get Justin Jefferson so low owned? Looks like we're getting Justin Jefferson low,
and he
owned
hasn't really punished everyone yet because the Vikings keep blowing everyone out.
Yeah.
Darnold is maxed out at 28 passing attempts, so he's top 5 in name your metric: targets per route run, yards per route run, fantasy points per target, first read target share. You just go into your favorite optimizer of choice and change the projection from 29 pass attempts for the Vikings to 36, and then see how many fantasy points Jefferson projects for. I think my favorite mini correlation this week is Jaden Reed and Justin Jefferson. I think you can do Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson, and a Packers player all together. This is my vote for sneaky shootout game of the week.
Yeah, I think it's good vote. I'll give you the aren't you worried about Jair Alexander? Are you worried?
I think Jair Alexander is worried. This is a matchup where Alexander loses his mind. He's always trying to get in his head. To be fair, he did get it over on Jefferson once in week 17 last year, but every other time they've played Jefferson as
it was 2 years ago, right? That he
yes,
was absolutely
yes,
terrible.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah. Any other plays for you in this game, Davis? If you think it's going to be a big blowout potential, sneaky upside in the game, are there plays in addition to Jefferson?
It's theoretically Jacobs is a good leverage play. Dontavian Wicks, Romeo. It's I'm just not doing any of that stuff. It's Reed, it's Jefferson, it's Aaron Jones. You could do Love and Kraft or something if you wanted, but that is 9th in the list of quarterback stacks I'd want to get on. So I'd have to be 150 max.
And Kraft is splitting that role. It's a little dangerous, I think, to predict.
He got hurt last week and came back in.
Okay.
He hurt his shoulder and then came back in and still got 67% of the routes. So I think he's.
Oh, that's a good note. Okay.
Isn't Musgrave also banged up? Do we have any word on?
I think
Musgrave?
every NFL player is banged. He was. I think he practiced today, so I think he's fine. But something to watch for on Sunday.
Okay. Yep. Definitely something to look out for. We're getting a little bit of, at least I'm hearing a little bit of background noise. Is that something? I don't know if either of you have the ability to.
That's Pat.
Close the door or something. I don't know. Okay. Well,
Door's
we'll continue.
Closed,
okay. Yeah.
Some wild guess. All right. I'll make a comment here.
All right, just wanted to note that just in case there is something, because this is also a podcast that gotta try to limit it to some extent. I'll hold off on Pat. I don't know if that was nobody commented on it. I was waiting for comments to come in on it and nobody was. So I was like, is this just me? Is this on my end? I don't know what's going on. Okay. All right. So yeah, outside of, I think those are good notes. If Jordan Love comes back, I mean, Jaden Reed, we saw the one game that Jordan Love played. Jaden Reed looked like he was ready to break out. So I think seems like a decent play.
Jaden Reed's a really fun play if Love is back.
Yeah, I'm assuming Love is back, but I did see a couple people say something to the effect of, no one should have told Matt LaFleur he can just call every player limited, even if he has no intention of playing them.
Yeah. Right.
So maybe there's some gamesmanship going on. And you'll know this is an early slate game, but yeah, Reed I think unplayable probably if Willis is the quarterback.
Yeah.
Any other notes for this game, Pat?
No, I think Davis covered it. I agree. I think the guys who are enticing are pretty enticing, especially if Love plays, but I don't want to go too deep into it. Not really into Dobbs or anything. So
yeah, I would say Dobbs, if Love is available, Dobbs on FanDuel at 5,100 is pretty interesting to me. But yeah, if it's Malik Willis, it's probably a fade of the pass catchers. Next up, we have another, I think pretty fun, big potential game in the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans. The Jaguars implied team total of just 19.5, tied for 22nd on the slate. The Texans, though, implied team total of 26, number 2 on the entire weekend in terms of implied team total. Davis, I will go back to you. Do you have anybody that you are particularly interested in the Jaguars and Texans game?
Yeah, I think Stroud doubles. Stroud and Nico, Stroud and Schultz, Stroud and Diggs. Dell just got ruled out as we were on air. I wasn't expecting him to play. So, obviously everyone watches. The note is that the Jaguars lead the NFL in rate of
Man
coverage,
coverage.
man coverage, which
Yeah.
is like no other team in the NFL is doing it because it's just much harder to win that way consistently, but they're not changing anything. The Bills were just like scoring touchdowns for fun. And then I think you can definitely do Christian Kirk as a bring back. Like he just is going to get 5 for 62, but then maybe he scores. And he's 5,400 on DraftKings. The Jaguars offense is super uninspiring. Like I'm not doing ETN or I don't know, Pat, you probably like Brian Thomas Jr.
Not really. I mean, I think I'm excited about him for like season long stuff. But I don't think I want to force a bring back in this game. But I do really like the doubles with Stroud. The Nico Collins hamstring injury was, I thought, like a huge bummer because the walkthrough currently is named after Houston, but it was named after Nico Collins. And I changed the cover boy to Nico Collins after making a Diggs last night because I thought Collins might miss the game. But now it seems like Collins, he's saying he's good to go. This man coverage stuff is great generally, but I think it's especially good for Collins. I note in the walkthrough that he has 4.83 yards per out run against single man coverage dating back to 2023, trailing only Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Justin Jefferson, and A.J. Brown. And then you have this question of, do they double him? The Jaguars are only 28th in blitz rate, but then they also don't really double team. They're 26th in double team rate. So they're just like everybody gets a defender and no one, and they rush 4. And this was true of Tyreek Hill in week 1. They doubled him on just 14% of his routes. For comparison, Nico Collins has been doubled on 36% of his routes this season, which is 89th percentile. So if he were to see anything like that, it would be like just, he's on vacation. It's like a huge, huge upside if that comes to pass. One of those single coverage routes for Tyreek Hill, by the way, was his 80-yard touchdown. So, you would think that maybe the Jaguars would learn their lesson and double Collins here. But even if they do, as I said, he's been doubled a ton this year. He has 3.02 yards per out run. He's proving that he can beat double coverage consistently. He's got 26% target share. He's their clear number 1. So I think you have the floor of CJ Stroud being a pretty good matchup. Jaguars pass rush, their pass rush is bad. They're 30th in EPL out per dropback. The defense overall is just not good against the pass. So, and Diggs has been pretty good against man coverage as well. He has a really high targets per out run against man coverage. So it just sets up well for Stroud to be productive. And then you have this additional potential for upside of the Jags playing this completely wrong and not doubling Collins. And then in that case, you could be having a true Collins spike week. Obviously, you want to keep an eye on the deal with his hamstring and stuff. But if he's right for this game, then there's no way I won't be playing him this week.
And 7,200, we were talking last week. I don't know if it was on the show, but 7,500 was this could be a $9,000 player in a month. And I still think that's true, even after it didn't really do it against the Vikings very much. Feels mispriced at 7,200. So yeah, I like Collins quite a bit. Diggs, I think, is in play. Schultz, I think Davis mentioned the other Texans that are in play. Cam Akers, we talked about Cam Akers at the beginning of the show about how he doesn't necessarily have mega upside. Better matchup here though against the Jaguars. We do have Damian
his role
Pierce
was terrible, worse than I even thought. JJ Taylor was getting in. British Brooks got a couple carries. Dude, it was really bad.
Yeah.
And Pierce might be back, right?
Pierce is out. Back. Mixon is actually questionable. I think Pierce was just ruled out 20
Pierce is
ago,
out. Okay.
I believe. Okay. Yeah, Pierce out, but Mixon is questionable. So maybe we get Mixon back and can just avoid the mess entirely. I had
sorry, but in smaller field stuff, 300 team tournaments or whatever, what about triples here? Because with the way NFL offense is going, I'm getting 3 running back, running back in the flex, Stroud triple, Diggs, Nico, Schultz.
Every week when I run Sims on Sunday morning, every week, Purdy triples, Stroud triples. When you include the quarterback in a high scoring game with the third teammate, whether it be a running back, whether it be a tight end, the sim ROI will go from the 40 to 60% range to the 150 to 180% range. Now, what that is measuring is the true 99th percentile where the team scores 45. but it's inarguable. What you're saying is inarguable, which is every offense sucks. So like the 6 offenses that score points, you probably do want to have a bunch of them.
Just give me 3 guys from that team. Yeah, like, and then maybe my upside is coming. Like, we used to think more like that they're going to go absolutely nuts, and that's my upside. But maybe my upside is in some of my other single pieces that isn't. But I'm just like, the correlation is helping me fill out those roster spots. But I also do think that Nico and Diggs have huge ceilings. I would say Nico has a bigger ceiling for sure, but there's definitely ceiling through the wide receiver, and then Schultz is just there to help you fill tight end.
Yeah, that was a note that I made in my article. Just last year, Schultz had a 15.7% target share when he was the 3rd option in the passing game. Now with Tank Dell out, you'd kind of think he goes back to maybe something a little bit closer to that. So maybe
Brevin Jordan also out for the year, which he's barely played, but like it just kind of locks in Schultz as, you know, you're not going to get like sniped on a Brevin Jordan touchdown or something.
Yeah, exactly. So in play there. I would also say I'm a little bit more bullish than you guys are on the Jaguars. Probably, I think I have a bias, and I just can't get over that. I just want Trevor Lawrence to be good. So maybe I need to get over that bias. But I'm just, you know, galaxy braining. He looked so bad on Monday. Everybody watched that game. He looked terrible on Monday night. Nobody's going to play Trevor Lawrence. But that was a really tough matchup with the Bills. I feel like this Texans secondary has shown that it's pretty exploitable. So I'm sort of interested in Trevor Lawrence just from they're probably going to have to throw a lot to keep up with the Texans. And I like that he's, you know, sort of concentrated to, we saw, I think 10 targets last week for Christian Kirk, 9 for Brian Thomas Jr. So I sort of like the idea of trying some of those stacks. I've tried it many times before. It has never worked for me. So maybe this is a do as I No, don't do as I say or as I do, I guess, with Trevor Lawrence. But I'm going to do some Trevor Lawrence double stacks as well. And I would throw Brenton Strange in there as well. Has had 12 targets over the last 2 weeks.
Strange is probably the best play on the team.
Yeah, okay.
I agree.
At least you guys you're with me there at least. Okay.
Yeah, I mean his role, he doesn't run as many routes as Ingram, but he kind of has like the same role.
I lost a $2,500 pick him when Lawrence missed him. I had an 8-legger that needed a higher 27.5 receiving yards for Strange, and he just mailed it. Trevor, the Jaguars offense, it's like worse than you could imagine how Neanderthal it is. No one moves before the snap. Every throw is like, Lawrence, you better hit it in a window about this big, and if you don't, it's a turnover.
It's an interception.
So yeah.
We're only going to have the routes have to have like a defender immediately behind them. So if the throw is overthrown, it just lands in the guy's chest.
It's terrible.
Yeah. It's probably not something you should do. This is another one that I was writing up early. So I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And then again, the deeper I got into the slate, I was like, feels thinner and thinner as I see some of the other plays on the slate. But it's, you know, a galaxy brain, very large field tournament type of play that I'm gonna give some shots to. But I obviously still prefer the Texan side. Maybe include. I think I am inclined to include a bring back from the Jaguars though in those Texan stacks, just because I think
I probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't. I think they just get scored. Like the other thing is the barrier for hitting a winning lineup and like the SPY is so much lower. Like Andy Dalton is the only quarterback to throw for 303 this year. If Stroud goes 280 and
that's not true now, right? Didn't Allen didn't get change? They didn't get there.
Allen didn't get the 300 yards.
Oh,
interesting.
It's a whole new world, man.
This is crazy.
But to me, it's still just like we're trying to unlock that upside, and I feel like, you know, if you're playing Stroud, especially if you're playing a Stroud triple stack that we talked about, like you are hoping that they continue to throw throughout the game. So you probably
but I think Mixon being out would be helpful in that sense. Like they run it through the passing game.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I guess I can see both sides, but I'm still inclined to, in part just because I am somewhat bullish on the Jaguars being able to have at least like volume, like in terms of like a ton of targets to their receivers. Somebody will get 7 receptions. Hopefully they score a touchdown. Like I think there's some upside there, and there is just the Brenton Strange being, I think, too cheap. So I'm still inclined to do it, but I hear what you're saying, that it's definitely not something you need to do with the bring back. Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons. Saints have an implied team total of 20, which is the 21st best on the weekend. The Falcons implied team total of 22.5, 13th best on the weekend. Of course, this is I wrote these yesterday, so it's possible the implied team totals have changed here. Pat, I went to Davis first last time. I think I went out of order there, but we'll flip back now. Pat going first. Pat, is there anybody that you like on the Falcons or Saints here?
This game is also not one that I'm super excited about. I think one thing that we weren't noticing in the first couple weeks with the Saints is just how run heavy they were. And, you know, it's like not a big deal because there's like they're blowing out the Panthers, they're blowing out the Cowboys, but they had pass rates of 42%, which was 9% below expected in week 1. They had a pass rate of 34%, which was 11% below expected in week 2. Last week, this was not a blowout, right? They lose the game. Minus 13% pass rate over expected. They only passed 50% of the time, expected to pass 63%. That's okay. So the Clint Kubiak stuff is fun with the motion and the play action, but we're also getting like an extreme run heavy offense potentially. So that's not great. Now, are the Falcons going to push them to the air? Well, the Falcons have also been really conservative. I have this chart that I share in the walkthrough where there's teams that are like refusing to pass, meaning they're in passing game scripts that are pretty passing friendly, and yet they have negative pass rates over expected. The Colts are an example of this year. The Falcons under Arthur Smith were like the quintessential example of this. The Falcons this year, though, are in that same part of the chart. We were lied to. We were told, they were going to embrace modern offense. They didn't run play action a single time week 1, and now they're not passing the ball. They had minus 10% week 1, minus 9% week 2, minus 8% week 3 pass rate over expected. I'm just, again, kind of worried about like what happens when these two teams come together and what the total pass volume looks like, especially if Olave's hurt now. So not just a game environment that I'm particularly excited about.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you, but I want to hear Davis's thoughts on this one. Nobody really stands out to me as an awesome play, but anybody standing out to you, Davis?
Bijan stands out to me because these are two, I believe they might be 32 and 31 in negative PROE, which is like, that's pretty bad for a game state, but it's pretty good for Bijan because it means a pretty low chance of them having to go away from him in the second half. There's been this thing that's been like the whole first half of these games, each of their games, it's been Bijan gets the ball on first down, he gets the ball on second down, and then he's a check down read on third down. So he's got like 14 touches going into half, but they're down. So then they play really slow. So they play really slow. They can't run as much. And if Bijan doesn't break one, then they just lose because they're bad. Cousins is not playing that well. With I'm assuming Olave's out. So basically it's going to be the two teams just like who can get our running back to 30 touches first. And that team is going to win the game. Like Kamara is a good play too. Taysom is a pretty good play. Juwan Jennings, slightly less so because it just appears that throwing to the tight ends is not a big part of their offense.
He's not even really out there a lot.
His
route anticipation's been bad. Yeah.
It's it's not great. It's not great there. So I guess I wanted to like this game, and Bijan and Kamara project for a lot of raw points, but it's one of those things of like, well, Jordan Mason projects for the same amount of points as Bijan Robinson. So what does that do when people are clicking the buttons on Sunday?
I'm interested to see where the projection goes with Alvin Kamara, because we actually saw Kamara's projection change quite a bit just with Taysom Hill out last week. I wonder to what extent he will be affected by the Olave being out. I think maybe the offense has more trouble moving the ball, but also he should have a bigger share. But I would imagine Kamara is going to get a little bit of a projection bump, already projected pretty well. So I guess I would say Kamara is somebody that I'm pretty interested in. I like your call of Bijan Robinson as well. I don't really feel that much better about Shaheed with Olave out. I don't know if I'm reading that wrong, but to me, that doesn't seem like an obvious, like he's going to project significantly better.
Right. Like he's already in such a good spot. It's almost better if Olave's there because they can't like double him constantly.
Right. So I don't know that I need to.
I do like the Bijan call. I mean, the Saints go against the Panthers in week 1 with Bryce Young. They go against the Cowboys' awful running game in week 2. And then Barkley goes off on them last week. I could see them, by the numbers, their run defense looks pretty good, but like I could see their run defense actually being one we're like really targeting in a few weeks because they basically didn't have anyone. They didn't have to face backfields for the first couple of weeks. And the game scripts obviously were so negative for those teams, in addition to them not being good running teams, with Bryce Young under center anyway, and then Dallas's run game. So I like the Bijan play. I think kind of, in retrospect, we'd be like, yeah, we should have been targeting this run defense.
Yeah. I will say, chat, I'm seeing a lot of season-long questions in chat, and we're probably not going to touch on season-long questions where we spend enough time on the DFS slate. This kind of goes a long time, so we won't be responding to season-long questions. But if anybody in chat has interest in responding to season-long questions, or if you're on Twitter, come to the YouTube if you want to talk some season-long stuff in the chat. But we're not going to touch on it on this show. The only other player that I thought is sort of worth mentioning, Ray McLeod at 3,700 as a value option. He is
Mooney's only 4,400, and he is like out targeting Drake London.
It's insane. Yeah, I don't know. I don't love it. I wish they would just go to the
love
players that I think are their stars instead of who apparently they think are their stars. It's hurting me how much they're using Ray McLeod here. So are you advocating for Darnell Mooney, Davis?
Yeah, because value wide receiver is not great. All the values at running back. Kind of hard to pick out a cheap wide receiver. Like Darnell Mooney 2%, Greg Dortch 13% projected ownership. It's like I'm a Dortch guy, but it's definitely better to do Mooney in that outcome.
Yeah,
the open score was not kind to Greg Dortch.
Open score can't understand. Yeah, open score can't understand what's going on. Where was Wandale at? Where was Wandale at in open score?
Wandale was 25th.
Not bad.
That's about right. Wandale's like the 25th best wide receiver. That's about right.
Yeah. We will talk more about Dortch when we get to that game. Jonathan wanted to talk about it. Andrew asked, when hand building, what's a good idea of how many points off the optimal lineup you might suggest is still playable? I would say 15 to 20. I don't know. I
was gonna say 10, kind of depending on your field size. Like what you don't want to do. Yeah. I'm sure you guys see this all the time in like Discord and stuff. Is people will post a lineup. They'll have an idea. They're like, oh, dude, I love this contrarian idea. I'm gonna play this Jaden Reed player. I'm gonna do this, and then they also do a contrarian quarterback and a contrarian flex. They have a wide receiver and flex, and like, dude, you just gave up 47 points versus the optimal lineup. Like you can't win.
I also think like a little bit depends on how strong the chalk is, like how much you really believe in these chalk pieces, or that they're just kind of propped up by fairly thin, like the targets have to go somewhere or whatever. So it's a little dependent on the week, but I think that sounds right, those estimates.
Yeah, I think and I think Davis kind of gave 10 would be the answer in probably a smaller field contest. My answer, of course, I'm immediately thinking of the Millie, where it's like hundreds of thousands of people in it. Then you can get a little bit further from the optimal. So yeah, kind of depends on the size of your contest. And yeah, that's a good note on how good is the chalk in a given week. And I'm not totally convinced that it's very good this week, but we'll talk more about the chalk.
Well, I kind of think it is.
Do you
at
really?
Running back, at least at running back, I think it's like there are like 9 guys who are all the nuts, and like if you play anyone other than that, you're screwed. I think.
Sure, but there's 9 guys that are the nuts. So I guess I'm thinking of like Jordan Mason specifically as like I believe he's the chalkiest of the running backs. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
He won't be by Sunday because everyone's going to say the same thing.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. All right,
then I'll play him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if nobody else wants to, then I guess
that sounds great.
This is like kind of I'll say this quickly. So this happens all the time in DFS now. It happened week 2 with Breece Hall, and it happened last week with Zach Charbonnet, where the guy who was just clearly the best points per dollar value ended up not being played nearly as much because there was a fancy play that was the same price. Week 3, it was A-Chain. Week 2, I don't remember. It might have been Barkley. I don't remember who it was in week 2. But it was
Kamara.
Like the Kamara, sure. I don't remember. But it was the clear number 1 play, points per dollar, total points, whatever, only ends up being 25% owned because everyone levels themselves off of it. So I would, and that's like unknowable. I mean, that is literally unknowable.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have the Rams at the Bears. The Rams have an implied team total of 18.75. That's tied for 26th best on the week. The Bears implied team total of 21.75, which is the 15th best implied team total on the week. think I went to Davis first last time, so I'll throw it to Pat. Anybody you like in the Rams and Bears game?
Yeah, I kind of like the Bears side of the ball here, and specifically the passing game. I thought, Caleb Williams, he wasn't like great last week. His EPA was still negative, but his success rate was quite a bit better than it's been. And just watching that game, I thought early on he did not look very good, and he's turning the ball over and stuff. But his play towards the end of the game, I thought he was starting to kind of look a little bit more impressive. And he gets a matchup against this Rams defense that's allowing explosive passes at the third highest rate. They're second worst in EPL out per dropback. They rank 26th in the dropback success rate. They aren't pressuring all that great. They're dead last in time to pressure. Their pressure rate is 7th, so they are getting some pressure, but it's not like super quick pressure, the stuff that really disrupts opposing passing offenses. And, I noted on the show last week that Caleb Williams was struggling with like these first read mistakes, basically. This is an offense, they're third worst in EPA against first reads. And again, because they're not going to get pressure super quickly, like, can the offense function a little bit more like it's supposed to? We got glimpses last week that maybe it can. Keenan Allen's coming back. Rome Odunze removed from the injury report. DJ Moore, I still feel like should be a bigger part of what's going on. Like, the offense was clicking. I think a lot more of it would flow through DJ Moore. The problem from a DFS perspective is like how exactly to play this, because my optimism is really about Caleb. Like, I think this could be the game where we're like, Caleb Williams has arrived. But how do we play that? How do we build lineups with that? Even if it happens, it gets pretty tricky. So I'm not sure. As I sit here on Friday, I'm still not sure like how to attack this as far as the stacking
Caleb
element.
Moore Komet.
Okay, that sounds interesting to me. I would like to play a Caleb lineup. I really would like to play a Caleb lineup.
Yeah, I was working on my article this morning, and I was like, I think there are like 4 quarterbacks who are really good: Stroud, Burrow, Kyler, and Daniels, which we'll get to. And I was like, you know what, $5,600 Caleb, that's like in the mix. This Rams defense has given it up to everyone. Like, everyone has just gotten whatever they've wanted against them. The aforementioned 45-point Juwan Jennings game. Like, if you can give up 45 points to Juwan Jennings, Rome Odunze can put up 45 or whatever. I think Rome and Keenan will just kind of steal from each other all year. I'm more bearish on Keenan, like, really mattering in this offense each week as it goes, because he's just not able to be as available. I mean, he'll be open when he's out there, but more is the alpha. And Komet fills the tight end spot. It's not even advanced analysis. It's that 13.2 from Komet might just cut it. That's really all it is.
And I do think so. Moore has a 10% first read target rate, which is bad. But like, my whole thing is like, the offense, like the plays they're calling aren't working as intended at a high rate. And what if we get into a matchup where they are working? A lot of those are probably designed to go to Moore. Like, I think his role in the offense to some extent is being obscured by them just not being as efficient and executing the plays as much as we'd like. So, I think he still does have that big upside. More is my preference to stack with. Even if I do it as a single stack with Caleb and DJ Moore, I think that's interesting. And then like Davis, the original short king, Tutu Atwell here, 4,800.
That's the thing. If he was 3,800, I think we'd be cooking. But like, 166-yard touchdown catch might not even get you there at 3,800. He is sending all the other guys to the shadow realm, though. Like Demarcus Robinson, Tyler Johnson, Jordan Whittington can't because now they're rotating. It was the most 12 personnel that a McVay team has ever played last week, which is him telling you these guys stink and I don't want to throw them the ball.
I'm not ready to capitulate yet on the Demarcus Robinson front, but I'm getting close. Getting close to having to capitulate to David.
Turns out the 30-year-old who's never been good was not in fact good.
He was good for 4 games last year. Let's not forget about those 4 games.
He did have good results for 4 games last year. I won't say that's not true.
On the Ram side, I'll note I started using the 4-for-4s. They have a schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed metric for defenses, and the Bears defense has been generally pretty good, but they do give up the 29th most. They're the 29th best at stopping schedule adjusted fantasy points for running back. So it is kind of a run funnel so far in terms of how fantasy points are accumulated for opposing offenses. So a good spot for Kyren Williams is my takeaway if you want to lean into that metric. It is still early in the year, so this is the first week I started using it just to kind of give you something to look at, because some of it is like, oh yeah, that's obviously right. Like the Commanders defense being terrible against wide receivers, like that's obviously right. So you can kind of start to get an idea of like, okay, maybe there's something here. So that would be my note on Kyren. And of course, just the usage should be there for Kyren with the star receivers out. So I think Kyren in play for the Rams at 7,300. And I love the call out of the Bears stacks. And I'm exactly with you, Pat, on I want to do it. I know I want to do it. I don't know exactly what I want to do.
I think I'm going to get there though somehow. Like Caleb I'm not going to play naked Caleb, but I'm going to figure out who I'm stacking him with. It'll probably be more,
one
and
small
maybe Komet as well.
Bullish note is if they really do bench DeAndre Swift for Roschon Johnson, like the Bears beats are speculating, that's a lot of series that start at 2nd and 6 instead of 2nd and 11, which is going to make Caleb's life a good bit easier.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I was going to make sure I brought up Roschon Johnson once we got to this segment, and then I forgot just now. The rumors are that Roschon Johnson might get an extended look, according to Jeremy Fowler, ESPN insider. So just one beat writer saying this, but it would make, and he kind of started getting more of a look last week. So I think it would make sense and he looked good. So I think Roschon Johnson getting more of an extended week look this week makes some sense. At 4,100. To me, I think he is in play against this bad Rams defense. I know we have a lot of running backs who look pretty good here, but he opens things up. There are a lot of expensive receivers that I like on the slate. So I do really like Roschon Johnson as a currently expected to be very, very low owned, doesn't really project very well anywhere. But I think there's a lot of input volatility in terms of Roschon Johnson right now. We don't know what that means. An extended look as the RB2. Is he going to be the RB1? I don't know what to make of it, but I think he should have opportunities in a good spot at 4,100. So I'm kind of interested there. What do you guys think?
If we get no additional news and it's just that one report, what's the smallest contest that you would play him in? Because I'm intrigued, but is he just kind of a mass multi-entry type of play, or would you consider him in something like the Spy?
I think I would. I think I would consider him in something smaller. Mostly because
I think that's crazy. I think playing him in the Spy is crazy. I think he's like a milli maker play. That's what he's like. He's like you play him with you play him with Brock Bowers and Jordan Mason and Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin. Like you stone chalk it up, and then you toss in you do a 2v2 versus the cash team with like Roschon Johnson and Justin Jefferson versus Rashee Rice and Jordan Mason or something like that.
So I don't play as many small fields, so you might be right that I'm crazy about it. But the reasoning for me would be just that you don't need 20 points necessarily out of a 4,100 Roschon Johnson. Like you get 9 fantasy points, and that's not a great outcome for what I think you can expect for him against the Rams. I think that there is like upside there. But I think there is kind of a safer floor if he does see like any kind of extended run against the Rams.
So the issue is that Herbert is the goal line back. Like the coaches
they
have
did say that, yeah.
They've said it. It's been implicated in the way they play him. So it's like he might be Carson Steele. He might get 17 touches for 7 points, which is like.
But more of them will be receptions than Carson Steele.
Yeah, sure.
That's true.
To me, it's like not that dissimilar from the Akers play last week, which ultimately by Sunday I decided I didn't really want to make. I played Akers on like 2 teams.
Yeah, I guess part of it, what I like about Roschon is also Akers was chalk last week, so I think it's different for
right.
At least for a large field tournament. It's different from that perspective where he's going to go lesser owned, and like to me, the fact that he's more involved in the passing game is just super bullish.
Yeah, that is true.
So there are things that
I'm definitely intrigued. Yeah, maybe I'll single entry the $20 milli maker. Maybe I'll do that.
But then the other reason I kind of like it is just that there are so many good receivers that we like on this slate, and not that much great value at running back. So just having like that one option like sort of stands out to me a little bit, but you're probably right, Davis, that maybe it's not a play for, some a contest with 300 people in it. I sometimes play those Galaxy Ring plays, but I'm also have not had nearly the same success at small field contests as large field. So I'm probably just wrong that he is in play there. Anything else from this game? I think we covered it pretty well.
I think we got it.
All right. Eagles at Bucks. Eagles have an implied team total of 23. We do have Devontae Smith officially out now. AJ Brown questionable. I'm guessing that implied team total maybe will come down. Currently tied for 11th on the slate. The Bucks implied team total of 21, 18th on the weekend. This Eagles team, I struggled writing about it because part of it because we didn't know who's going to be in or out. I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts on this game, and I completely forget who I went to first last time now. All right, so let's go to Davis first. Eagles or Bucks? Who do you like in this game?
I just really hate the idea of playing legitimately like 30% on Dallas Goedert. Might be like a little bit of a discount on that now because of the Bowers thing. They're very similar salaries. They're going to project really similarly. It's like the one thing that's kind of interesting to me is just Stone playing Jalen Hurts naked. If Jalen Hurts is 4.7% in the SPY and Goddard is 30% or 25%, just being like Jalen Hurts scores 3 rushing touchdowns. The thing is he's not been very good running this year. He looks a bit slower. They haven't been pushing as much. I suppose the answer is probably it's 2024, man. Just play the running back.
Just play Barkley,
Just play Barkley. Yeah. And it's kind of hard to get him because of the aforementioned, like we keep talking about this running back value, which is like, when are people going to learn? Saquon Barkley just gets 30 every week, and he comes in 8% owned every week because you can get Najee Harris. It's like, all right, let's just play Barkley, bro. And I'm actually like less like I do these underdog battle royales. I do them all week, and like the field has seemed way more excited about Godwin and Evans than I have. Not because I like think it's a bad matchup or anything, but just like I think this game probably just ends up sucking. Like the Eagles are not going to. It's going to be like last week. The Eagles aren't going to push anyone. It's just going to be like a lot of Rashad White, a lot of Barkley. They're fine, but I like prefer other guys priced right next to them. So it's really just Barkley for me.
All right, Pat. Anybody you like here?
I think Barkley is probably the right way to play it. I agree there. Goddard, I guess if it doesn't get out of control, is pretty interesting. But yeah, if he's going to be like super chalk. But like in moderate chalk, I don't think Goddard is bad. I don't have. It's the problem is like the Eagles there's just like nobody out. Like Britton Covey actually looked kind of interesting, and now he's on IR.
He separated his scapula.
Oof.
Sounds painful.
Don't love that.
So here's a question: do they play 12 personnel or do they do 11? Because their 12 personnel is Grant Calcaterra, who's been on the team forever. They never throw him the ball.
It's a trick question because when Johnny Wilson's on the field, which is it?
Right. Does he qualify as a tight end?
You could talk me into Johnny Wilson as a punt.
I think you could talk me into it too. Someone needs to talk me into it. I'm not going to make the case.
Yeah, I was going to try to talk you guys into Paris Campbell before Johnny Wilson, which I don't feel great about that, but he is. I guess Paris Campbell, he's had those full-time roles before and just sucked for like an entire year. So, but he's had some spike weeks. I don't know. It feels like there should be somebody opening up, especially if we do get AJ Brown out. Also, it's just like they need to have receivers out there. Somebody's going to get a lot of playing time. Britton Covey's not there, so like John. I mean, I don't want to play Jahan Dotson, but maybe Jahan Dotson is playable.
Dotson is. Yeah. This is true. I literally woke up in a dead sweat the other night, and I was like, "Jahan Dotson is this week's Juwan Jennings," in the sense of I go on every show. I point out how laughably bad of a fantasy player he's been in his career. Everyone and then he just shows up on Sunday. Smash.
Yep. This is the one.
At least he's 5,000 though. Like if he was like 4,200, it'd be a lot scarier. But he's not that cheap.
Yeah, he has to like actually be Juwan Jennings to kill you this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love this game in general because I feel like somebody has to score fantasy points here. Probably, I guess maybe not. Maybe they just don't score that many fantasy points. Maybe it is
I mean, I
just the
think
running backs, as you say.
yeah, if you're fading the game, you're hoping. Also, it doesn't look like the weather's that bad, but it's going to be like a rainy game. It sounds like. So you're just like, Barkley scores one touchdown. Barkley's his longest run is 13 yards, and he scores one touchdown. He doesn't really catch many balls, and it's like kind of spray. Goddard doesn't get in the end zone. Like, I just think this game, because Barkley's so expensive, like he's 8,000, so he can soak up a decent amount of the scoring without like you needing him.
Yeah, no, that is true. You don't need to have a player from this game. So maybe I can just not play the Paris Campbells and Johnny Wilsons of the world. I would, yeah, maybe
I'll put it on the board.
talk
Johnny
about it.
Wilson is a better play than Dotson. I'll at least say that.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's we don't know exactly what he is yet. He's a big guy, could run a lot of routes.
He almost scored a
week.
touchdown last week.
He's drawn targets on the field. Now it's like a super small sample, and it probably doesn't mean anything. But
Yeah,
Dotson
not a
has
ton
been
of routes.
Enough.
Outproduced Keon Coleman last year.
Yeah, I like
from a certain point of view. He scored more fantasy points. Keon Coleman had more yards.
Maybe Johnny Wilson is the best of the receivers at least, which isn't saying a lot. It's not like a slam dunk play, but yeah, I do
it is not.
Yeah. Rashad White, like we got the again, the coach speak I feel like is all over the place with what they're doing with the backfield. There was some that was like, oh, Bucky Irving taking over as the running back on the Bucs, and then Bowles came out last week and was like, no, that's not the case. It's going to be a mix. We need both of them. And then yeah, he had a hammy. I think he is expected to play at this point. No, I think it was yesterday. Bucky Irving didn't practice but said he's playing. So make of that what you will with a hamstring injury. But if he's out, I would think $6,000 Rashad White would look really good. Just if he has the role he had last year, $6,000 is too cheap for Rashad White. So that's I guess the one note there is if we do get Bucky Irving out, I think Rashad White becomes a very strong play here.
I think I would prefer him to Najee in that scenario if Bucky's out.
I think you're right because we saw it last year. Like he was just consistently very good. Like for a $6,000 price tag, the usage is really good. All right. Cincinnati Bengals at Carolina Panthers, another fun one here. We got the Bengals implied team total of 25.5, tied for third on the week. Panthers implied team total of 21.5, tied for 16th on the week. Pat, I'm gonna throw it to you. This seems to me like a fun game. Are you into this one?
Well, I guess Deontay Johnson's going to be chalk, which is like, I get it. Like, he's finally with a quarterback who can actually deliver him the ball. And he is a target earner. He's been a target earner his whole career. The offense, as they said in the offseason, is designed to go through him. Adam Thielen's out. So I do understand that, but I'm not sure I want to be eating like big chalk on him. So it's sort of dependent on what the field does there. I think Jamar Chase is pretty interesting for sure here. I think you could do Burrow Chase. I think Moss is also in play. He's, just like seems like his job. Now, the problem is that when Chase Brown gets out on the field, he looks like way more explosive.
But they don't care. They straight up don't care.
They don't seem to care. So yeah, I think Moss is a pretty solid play at 5,900. And if you're gonna do Deontay, I think you could do the stack with Dalton. He's only 5,300, and he's the best passer in the league this year. So why not?
Yeah, I'm intrigued by it. Davis, anybody that you particularly like from this game?
Yeah, the one question you have to ask yourself is, do you double stack Burrow? Because of all the quarterbacks who you'd think would get there with double stacks, the rate at which Chase and T get there together in the same game is like, I think it might have happened once ever.
I think it's with Yoshi Boss is who you bring in as a double, right?
The thing is that I actually think Eric All is coming for all of Yoshi's touchdowns. I really believe that. That's not even a truth serum. I'll put that.
He's only like his route participation is like 30% or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is the sort of thing that just like Gesicki's route participation went up after smashing. Like
it was still like 54% last week, I think.
For Gesicki, that is a ton. Gesicki played. He had
Sure.
he had 9 routes in week 1. I mean,
well, but they didn't pass it all. I think. Let me pull it up. His route participation was somewhat in that range. 46%. He was at 46% week 1. He was at 51% week 2, and he was at 54% week 3. So Gesicki's been pretty consistent.
What really has to happen is that Eric All has to convince them that he can block well enough to send Drew Sample to 0, and he's not. It's not there yet.
Yeah, 24% route participation last week for Eric All.
The Yoshi Voss thing feels like so insanely thin. I believe he is at 6 touchdowns on 17 career receptions. 7 touchdowns.
So Higgins is back. He has 80% route participation, 21% targets per route run. Sees 7 targets.
Yeah,
why not?
It all seems pretty bullish to me. Like, and the coach week after like this week, the coach week has been pretty positive on Yoshi. Also, I also very much my best ball bags would like Yoshi to be good. My pre-draft best ball bags would like Yoshi to be very good here. But I love the coach speak being like, yeah, we need to get him more involved. He's been very good. He's rising to the opportunity. Like, it's all been very positive.
Sam Sherman is just somewhere just cackling.
Is he not a Yoshi fan? Oh,
no,
T. Higgins.
He's
right.
T. Higgins.
Okay,
and he's huge in Eric All. I think this Eric All. This is the Sam Gotti. He's not even playing. He's not even playing. We're talking about Eric All in week 4.
Are you guys not aware that Sam didn't actually draft Eric All though in best ball menu? Anyway,
he was in Maine, dude. He was in Maine.
If I was not a coward, I would do what Jacob Sanderson did earlier this week, which is just flag plant T. But I am a coward. Here's my flag plant. Xavier Legette is the best play in this game.
Ooh,
oh god,
that's a good flag plant, man. I like that.
That is out there. That is. I mean, Jonathan Mingo is running more routes than Legette last week.
That is a pretty solvable problem.
That is.
Won't they both run more routes with Thielen out?
That's the thing, is they were both kind of splitting before. They were both at like 55, 60%. Well, now it'll just be maybe Mingo goes to 85 and Legette's at 75. But
yeah,
I mean, basically every play of Legette's NFL career, other than losing, like he just lost concentration on the 2-point conversion. I've been like, I was wrong about him as a prospect. He can play. He's good.
He does look like he can play. The other thing about them is that Mingo has played 41% in the slot. Legette's played 39% in the slot.
That's weird.
Deontay's at 20%. So Thielen goes out, and like the concern would be like, oh, it's actually, I don't know if they still have like Shai Smith. They probably don't. But like, you know what I mean? Like some random dude's like, oh, they have a slot receiver playing the slot snaps that Thielen opened up. But both of those guys are actually playing out of the slot at a high enough rate where I still think
it's a funnier
the top
name.
3.
Their 4th wide receiver is a funnier name. It's David Moore.
Oh, but he's not really a slot.
No, he's like pure outside
guy. Yeah. So I think that would be like one of the ways that like Legette doesn't get there is that they just replace the slot snaps with a slot receiver. But I think Mingo and Legette are going to be filling in that role together. And, it'll be those 2 plus Deontay as the top 3.
Yeah, no, I think Legette a good call out. Doesn't really project well enough that he's popping anywhere, but you can definitely see the case where like maybe he just does get all the run this week. So I like that call out. Anything else? Davis, you mentioned T. Higgins as somebody you're not going to flag plant, but I do think he's at least very much in play, right?
No, he's super good play.
Yeah, 5,900. Saw 6 targets. Like he was immediately, I think, like 95% route participation. Saw 6 targets last week. So all of that looks great for T. Higgins. Moving on to Broncos at Jets. Is this one that we can almost ignore entirely? I'll throw it to Pat this time. Is there any? I think there a player or two that you could play from this game. How much you get into?
I like Brees. 7,800, and I think will be a part of them getting the ball out pretty quickly this week. The Broncos have a really good pass rush, and that's Rodgers' thing is he gets the ball out really quickly. Super fast time to throw, 2.151 seconds this year, which is among the fastest in the league. And against a pass rush that's been very effective. They're 3rd in pressure rate. They're 2nd in pass rush win rate. I think that getting the ball out quickly will be a really big part of their game plan. They're going to come in knowing they need to do that. And you're looking at those quick targets, like who Rodgers has actually been targeting when he's getting the ball out in 2.5 seconds or less. It's Garrett Wilson with a 33% targets per route run and Breece Hall with a 29% targets per route run. I think those two will get a lot of targets. The other thing that I think is kind of interesting is that the Broncos are first in the NFL in blitz rate. And this Vance Joseph defense, I was looked at last year, like if he was dialing up and down the blitz rate, depending on his quarterback, because you don't really blitz Rodgers. Rodgers has been really good against the blitz, and he doesn't get blitzed a lot for that reason. And he did. He would blitz a lot less. Like he didn't really blitz the Dolphins last year, which is kind of the way people play it. But he blitzed Jared Goff a lot, which is kind of how people play Goff. So I'm like, all right, so Joseph is probably going to dial this back a little bit. They're not going to blitz as much. That makes me wonder, what does the Broncos defense look like when it's not doing this blitz that they're pretty effective at? So it could be like a little bit of a toned down version of the Broncos defense, maybe. But I think I mostly want to play it through Breece. It's kind of like I'm betting on him to get quick targets, explosive plays, and still, not totally dominate the rushing work because Braylon Allen is going to mix in and looks really good, but, have enough of it and then have a pretty valuable receiving role. I mean, he's got a 21% target share right now, which is first in the league, 1.76 yards per out run, which is RB6. So, I mean, his receiving role is like for real. And I think this matchup could potentially boost it.
Yep, absolutely. Davis, anything else for you in this game?
Old me would have loved to have just played Garrett Wilson here and been like, dude, he's one of the best wide receivers in the league. Patrick Surtain, I don't care. But like he doesn't even project that good. Like I think he's like 4 points worse than Rashee Rice on most stuff. So it's like, and I don't even, the one thing that could talk me into it is if I thought Rodgers wanted to make a point to be like, everyone's talking shit on my guy, I'm going to go out there and we're going to get him a 2-touchdown game. But Rodgers, like he does look pretty good. I don't know if he still has that in him. I don't know if he still has.
I think he still has the desire to make a point.
No, he still has the desire.
I
don't know if he has the ability. I don't know if he has the ability to just be like, I guess he has resurrected Alan Lazard. So, so
right.
maybe
that's the ultimate point.
Yeah. Maybe the ultimate point is let me play with my friends. What's James Jones doing? Where is it? Does anyone have
Where's
eyes
Donald
on
Driver
James Jones? Yeah, where's Donald Driver?
Might have been with Favre. I don't know if they ever overlapped.
They did for a year. I'm almost positive.
Right,
Point being, I might not even really play Breece. Like I believe he is literally the highest projected guy of the week. But this game, I mean, how many plays get there's nothing more tilting than watching Rodgers take the clock down to 0-0 when you just want fantasy points.
Yeah. Any Jets game, so frustrating.
With how it's gone this season, like, do you think, I know he's $200 cheaper than Saquon on Underdog, but like, does Saquon steal some of this Breece ownership here? Or
yes, that's why they're going to middle it as the expense. It's like, it'll be like 17 to 22% on Breece and like 8 to 12 on Barkley.
I feel like if you catch the low end of and the high is like 17 Breece versus 12 Barkley, I'm pretty psyched about that.
For sure. Yes.
Yeah. We don't do a lot of talking about defenses, but since somebody brought up the Broncos defense,
I'd say they're the punt defense du jour.
Yeah, I'd say they're in play as the punt defense. Jets defense obviously in play also against the Broncos. But yeah, we won't spend a lot of time on defenses. We'll move on to talk about back to a fun game. Commanders at the Cardinals. This game has a 50.5 implied team. 50.5 total. Commanders have an implied team total of 23.5, tied for ninth best on the week. Cardinals implied team total of 27 is the best of the week. So I will go to Davis for this one. Who do you like from this game?
Kyler, Elijah Higgins, Brian Robinson Jr., Jaden Daniels, Luke McCaffrey, Noah Brown. My flag plant this week is not a player I like. My flag plant this week is that Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin is going to be the most combinatorially overowned pair of the year. That like whatever Terry McLaurin's projected ownership is, all of that will come with like a lot of that is going to come with Jaden Daniels. And it's like Jaden Daniels can get 32 without completing a pass to Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
My flag plant will be to piggyback on your flag plant and say, in that case, then play it from the other side.
Play from the other side.
Kyler, Marvin,
Yeah.
and throw in Elijah Higgins there just to help fill out tight end at 3,100. But Harrison, I mean, I think this could be a spot where he
Super explosion.
consolidates target volume. Like Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson, as I mentioned, the open scores came out. Dortch was wide receiver 60. Michael Wilson, wide receiver 56. That's out of 60 receivers. Marvin Harrison was wide receiver 23. You know, he had that. I think still the bad taste in people's mouth is a little bit there from week one. It hasn't
Literally
fully
from week
left.
one.
Yeah. And so this is a game environment. Like, we want to target the Washington Commanders defense. We know that. We know that the Commanders can put up points on the other side and push this game. And I think Brian Robinson is actually a really fun way to play it as a bring back because he's going to catch more passes, I think, with Eckler out. So you have them putting up points, but maybe it doesn't flow through the chalky stack. And yeah, you get Harrison consolidating these targets that Trey McBride is gonna leave behind. And when you look at the first read data, Harrison had already passed McBride in terms of first read target rate. The offense already is designed with him as the top option, and that could really be magnified this week with McBride out.
You get the Coors Field matchup with the Commanders defense. Then you get, a bad opposing pitcher. I'm trying to do a baseball analogy for some reason with Trey McBride out. I'm with you. Really like Marvin Harrison here. Is it not Short King fall? Is Short King summer is over? We're just out on Dortch at this point.
Higgins is just the better play. He's cheaper and he's at tight end. Like I'd be ready to shove the chips in on Dortch if I thought it was Tip Ryman. And I can't even come up with another funny Arizona Cardinals backup tight end.
I don't know who their fourth tight end.
Yes,
is.
This was I would have played Max Williams.
I would have too. Yeah, I would have played Max Williams.
People forget Max Williams was kind of intriguing.
He had his moments.
Yeah, this is like this is getting to redo the Max Williams thing basically. I will probably play Higgins in cash. I will probably be the number one Higgins slappy on DraftKings.com this weekend. I just think it's like he's going to get about 60% of the routes in the highest total game with the other, and the tight end position we know is a target earning position in this offense. It feels very straightforward.
Yeah.
I like him correlated for sure. I don't know if I'll have like solo Higgins. I guess I'm not opposed to it, but it's not.
There's not really a good punt tight end this week.
Yeah.
Tommy
Tremble. I guess I just come around and just
Higgins is better than Tremble. Higgins better than Tremble for me.
In a vacuum.
The Saints guys are not playable. Kittle is back, so Bear is gone. Like there's just nothing.
Oh, Brenton Strange is the other.
Brenton Strange is a better play. Brenton Strange is a better play, I think. Well. Yeah. It's very close.
He'll be a lot lower owned. We're projecting to be a lot lower owned.
Well, that was my question about this game. Like, does Davis? You're saying you think that Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin ends up being really over owned, but do you think that the Kyler stuff catches steam?
Kyler and
Higgins, because Higgins helps you fill the spot, and then Harrison's expensive.
No, dude, people, it's like. Foster Moreau was in optimal lineups last week, but wasn't really owned in tournaments. It's something where it's like, sure, I can click it in cash, but I'm not playing Foster Moreau in tournaments. And I think people will mistakenly put Elijah Higgins in the Foster Moreau set. And that's not I'm not even saying Elijah Higgins is good. I honestly have no idea, but I know that he was a receiver in college and that he ran more routes than Ryman each of the last 2 weeks anyway. So I'm pretty enthused about it. And I wasn't enthusiastic enough. Brian Robinson Jr. might actually be the best play in this game. Arizona cannot stop the run, dude. They can't do anything. And the only other running back who's going to be active, I think, is going to be McWeapon. who at this point he's got to be 30. McNichols has got to be 30 years old.
Yeah, I don't even know. Robinson, he has this is B-Shot. I just Googled Robinson control. Robinson's got, I think, a 9% target share. Checking that. But he's got a 9% target share, and Eckler has a 12% target share. We're looking potentially at a decent receiving role here for Brian Robinson. They throw really shallowly in this offense, and they've been thrown to the running backs. And Robinson's yards per route run was pretty solid last year. It's 1.17 this year. He's not a zero as a receiver. He's been explosive as a runner, like weirdly explosive. He's running back 9 in rush yards over expected per game. Running back 7 in breakaway yards per game. Now, I don't really expect that to continue. That's not really who he is, but he's like, he gets kind of painted as this like ultra boring guy, but he's not that boring. He's not that exciting, but he's like, if you're going to give him all the work in a really good game environment, like in an offense that's showing it can put up points against a defense that you put up points against, like, yeah, I'm in. Especially if I'm going to play stuff on the other side,
Yeah, he is one of those. We talked about all the great running back values on the side. Like he just pops as a point per dollar.
I might play him in cash. I think he is. I think he is a stone jam because he catches the ball better than you think too.
Yeah, he's a decent catcher. Like, it was really Eckler came in and like took that role away from him. There were weeks last year where he was looking like he could be a pass catching back at least a little bit. So
he gets kind of rolling downhill on like some of those, like they can do like swing passes and stuff to him. He gets like rolling downhill in a way that's pretty nice in the open field. So yeah, I think I'm not playing cash, but it makes sense to me.
Jeremy McNichols is 28, by the way. I did fact check Davis on that one.
That seems way too young.
Younger than I thought on Jeremy.
I love McNichols coming in.
Even looks kind of older to me. Looks like he should be like 34, but no, just 28 years old. What about
if he was lying about his age this whole time?
He might have been. Yeah,
that would explain some things.
That would. James Conner. We haven't talked about. I don't think either of you brought up James Conner.
I'm off this one. I've seen he projects pretty well. To me, it's like he actually sort of falls in the Najee range for me, where I'm like, I think I would actually rather save the money going to Najee and Moss as opposed to paying the $6,400 for him. Famous last words, and I like Brian Robinson better too.
Yeah, I do too. I did a pod on the Legendary Upside stream this morning with Sacrilegious, and he noted that he felt like Conner might be a way to play this game to fail. If you're betting against this game, playing it through Conner is kind of interesting because the Cardinals have shown an interest in kind of getting Conner going, and maybe if this game doesn't shoot out, Conner is one of the reasons why they can kind of grind it away with him.
Yeah, I'm sort of into Conner just from the leverage standpoint, like exactly Sacrilegious's point. Like just play it if you're not playing through the passing game. I think Conner could be one, because he's not super involved in the passing game this year. I think of him as being a pretty capable pass catcher, but just 5 targets on the year for James Conner. Don't love that, but 46 carries. This is obviously a great spot against the Commanders defense. So I like Conner a little bit better than you do. But to Davis's point, there are just so many great running backs on the slate that it's hard to really prioritize.
Can't play everyone. You got to draw your line somewhere.
Yeah. He will be above the line for me, but I get it. There are a lot of good running back plays. Any other notes? I know this is an important game, so I just want to make sure anybody else have any other players you want to talk about.
I do think you can get away with like Noah Brown or McCaffrey in a Jaden Daniels lineup. Like it's not going to sim well. Like if you put that in your sim on Sunday morning, it won't. But I mean, McCaffrey almost scored last week. He looks pretty good.
Yeah, very very good player.
What about Zach Ertz?
Yeah.
He's 4,000. If he was like 3,300, I'd be like, that would probably be my flag plant.
Yeah. Well, if it's 3,300, we'd almost have to.
Yeah. Realistically, like, what is the most amount of points he can get?
15.
Catch 6 balls. Yeah. So, yeah, 15.
1 touchdown.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Wait.
Noah Brown.
He got a touchdown and 6 catches.
Right.
So he has 30 yards on
30 yards. Yeah, that's really bullish for Zach Ertz.
I think this is just going to happen. We just named the exact thing that's going to happen in this game.
I like the Noah Brown call. I didn't even write up Noah Brown in my article, but as I was working on the cash game article, I was looking into it a little bit more. And it's like they've talked about wanting to get him more involved. So like he
They
doesn't stand
basically
out.
have just arrived at where everyone else arrived at, which is like De'Ami Brown is not an NFL player. So let's try
better.
Noah
Dude,
Brown.
Yeah.
What's like insult to injury for Jahan Dotson that they trade him and then talk about having to get Noah Brown more involved. That's just this is brutal.
Clear win on that trade for the commies, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, Noah Brown, I like that call out. At least playable in this one. Patriots at Niners. The Patriots have an implied team total of 15. To me, it is I'm not playing anybody from it. And we can just talk about the Niners. Does anybody like anybody on the Patriots?
No, literally no one.
All right, the Niners. So to me, instinctively, I want to stay away from it. But I look at the projections, and it's hard to stay away from that. As implied team total of 25.5, they have the tied for third best on the weekend. Jordan Mason is one of the top point per dollar plays on the weekend. Juwan Jennings actually projects really well various places this weekend. Kittle is officially back, I believe. I believe it's official at this point.
And Debo might play.
Debo's questionable. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
Debo practiced 2 days in a row, and the beat said he looks good.
All right, so I don't know.
Here's one edge left in DFS. If a guy is uncertain to play by the time everyone's done with their content on Friday, you're getting like a 5%, 3% discount. Let's say Debo projects as a guy who should be on 15%, he'll be 12%. For right now, I'm making shit up because I don't even know his price because I didn't even look because I was just like, oh, he's not playing.
Yeah.
So that's like a real thing.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good call out. It's a tough matchup ish. I guess maybe it's not as tough as I think of the Patriots defense as being because
I don't think it's a tough matchup, man.
The Bengals just played bad against
the Bengals
them,
the Bengals just sucked week one. Honestly, like that was one of my takeaways from it when I was writing this game up. I was like, the Patriots defense already, even with that game included, you look at the season long numbers, like the defense looks pretty bad. So yeah, I don't think they're 26th in EPL out per dropback and 27th in dropback success rate. And that's with the Bengals stuff in there. And they're not getting pressure, 28th in pressure rate. I think the 49ers should be able to roll here. My question would be with McCaffrey, seeing German specialists and stuff, like it felt like Shanahan was like, all right, in 4 weeks, McCaffrey will be back or whatever. I can just slam Jordan Mason into the line. It doesn't matter. But like, do they start to think like if they blow the Patriots out here, does Mason get pulled? Like, is
he valuable to the team now?
Is he valuable to the team now? Yeah.
Guerendo got his first like real work last week and looked all right. Looked okay. But I mean, that was a game that was in question and Guerendo was getting touches. So yeah, like Mason's line on underdog for rush attempts is 20, which is like far and away the most of anyone. And I took the under. Basically, like 20 rushes is just so many. Like it's just a lot anyway. But if this game goes true to the line and they really are 10.5 point favorites, why is Patrick Taylor Jr. not getting rushes in the fourth quarter?
Right. Yeah.
20 rushes is so many.
It's a lot of touches. So
Mason's a really strong play. I'm not saying he's not, but I'm just like, he's going to be maybe the chalkiest guy. And so if you're looking for ways it doesn't get there, that could be one of them.
Yeah, and I alluded to that I see him as chalk that I can get away from this week just because there are so many running back plays. I think he's a cash game lock, I think. Who else? Who do we like on the Niners then? So if you guys don't think that the Patriots are a very good defense, I would imagine you have some interest in the Niners, but also so things kind of up in the air with Debo that might affect what you want to play. So sort of tough to break down. But does anybody have any concrete? These are guys who want to play this week.
It's like I want it. Well, first off, it'll be a real blessing to not have to consider Brandon Ayuk in any format. That is very nice to know that like Kittle being back is enough for him to be off my board. But if Debo's back, then I'll just I get to go back to just scrolling past his name and pretending like he doesn't exist. Kittle obviously is like he would be the one because tight end is just so brutal and a patented Kittle 3 target, 3 reception, 3 touchdown game. Feels like it could be on the menu.
very much on the menu, especially if Debo is out.
Yeah,
100%.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I was looking at Purdy's stuff, and like he has been more aggressive than I think we're used to seeing and throwing downfield. He's also taking longer to throw than we're used to, 3.05 seconds to throw. He's allowing pressure at a fairly high rate, but it's like he's like trying to make stuff happen. Like Purdy's not like been as like point and shoot as normal, but I'm like I kind of into it. Like he's actually taking a few more chances. He's being a little bit more of a playmaker in this offense. So, you know, if the Patriots defense is as overrated as I'm thinking it is, then I do think that the passing game is interesting in addition to Mason. You just got to figure out who's playing and stuff.
Yeah. So I guess we'll have better information on Sunday, but hard to know at this point. All right, let's move on to the next game, which is the Browns at the Raiders. 37 is the total in this game. Browns have an implied team total of 17.5, which is the 29th best on the weekend. Raiders implied team total of 19.5, which is tied for 22nd best on the weekend. This, of course, I wrote this prior to Devontae Adams and Michael Mayer being ruled out. I don't know. This is there are some plays here, I guess. There are people to at least consider with Devontae Adams out. Pat, I'll throw it to you. Who do you like in the Browns Raiders game, if anybody?
I mean, well, I wrote this up with Adams in, but one of my big takeaways is they got to get Bowers back involved here. He didn't run a full slate of routes last week, but that was obviously not smart. And
that problem has been solved for them.
Yeah,
right.
And solved for them. So you want to get the ball out quickly here against the Cleveland pass rush, and Bowers has been a key part of that for them, even though, you know, his role last week wasn't what we were hoping. But yeah, I mean, he's not cheap, but I think with Adams out, he is definitely interesting to me.
Yeah, hard not to have some interest there because you would think they will feed him the ball. Davis, how about you? Any strong plays for you here?
Trey Tucker is the one that I think the thing that's going to happen with Bowers is Bowers will actually end up pretty over-owned relative to his projection. Like Bowers is going to project for what, like 12.7 ish.
Yeah, right around there.
But then he'll be like, he could get more owned than Goddard, I think, because people just want to click him because he's Brock Bowers.
Yeah, he's a more fun click.
He's way more fun. So I'm gonna kind of reserve my judgment on what I'm gonna do with Bowers till Sunday. Yeah. But Trey Tucker, man, fun player. The thing is this game is just gonna suck. This is just gonna be like Jerome Ford and Donta Foreman and Zamir White and Alexander Madison trading, you know, whatever the opposite of body.
Maybe not Zamir White. Maybe.
Yeah. The total in this game is, I believe, 36.5 now. I mean, it's really brutal stuff, dude. It's really
hard to get excited about this game.
It's hard to be like Trey Tucker would be no different really than playing KJ Osborne in that context.
Yeah,
it's like you might end up excited about KJ Osborne, but you shouldn't, you know.
Right. It's not going to go well for you. Jacoby Myers, I guess, but he's also doesn't project
like,
that
what
well.
Is he 5,800? It's like
5,500.
Yeah.
Imagine flipping the cards that were your Jacoby Myers versus Deontay Johnson chalk.
Right.
Like,
right.
I know we got to pivot, but that's just not for like the same price. What I want to do.
Jerome Ford, I guess, is the only players that I wrote up in this game were Brock Bowers and Jerome Ford. That was when Devontae Adams was still in, but seems like a kind of a sneaky spot for Jerome Ford. The Raiders have just been torn up by running backs all season, so it seems like it's kind of a sneaky spot. I don't know. I don't particularly love it though in a game that has a 0 total here. So no super strong plays from this game on a slate that has a lot of good running back value. Brock Bowers, I think he's the cash tight end on FanDuel at 6,500 at this point. Just gonna see so many targets, like not prohibitively expensive. Might get there on DraftKings. I don't know. No, I guess Goddard is cheaper, so probably still won't be a lock in cash games. We'll have to wait and see there. Let's move on to the Davis game. We've got the Chiefs at the Chargers. The Chiefs have an implied team total of 23.75. Chargers at 16.25. The Chiefs, that's 8th best on the weekend. Chargers at 30th best on the weekend. I'll let Davis go first on this one because it is his team. I know he has thoughts on the Chiefs. Davis, who do you like in this game?
Rashee Rice. It's really it. I mean, I will. This is the do as I say, not as I do, because like I can't not do Kelsey at 5,800, and like to my eye, I'm not gonna claim to be the greatest ball knower of all time. He doesn't really look that much worse to me. He looks maybe half a step
like
slower.
Kelsey, recent Kelsey, yeah.
He doesn't. He like the guy who dominated the playoffs last year. He's basically that guy.
Here's what I'll say: the one thing,
probably healthier.
Kelsey, the one, and this is some real ball knowing. After a play, he's jogging to the sidelines, and his jog was so slow, and it looked slow. I was like, dude, this is taking forever. And then like Rice jogged off, and he looked like a nimble little deer, like just and he like caught him instantly. I was like, oh no, like that jog, that's an old man jog.
He is old, dude. He's 35.
I know, but that was like it was a 40-year-old jog.
What I would say is that there's a long history of guys who run like dads absolutely owning at the tight end position.
That's true.
To give you guys a comp.
JJ Zacharyson.
Jason Witten at 37 years old took a year off to do TV, came back for the Cowboys at 37, racked up 63 catches for 530 yards and 4 touchdowns. And you might be saying, I don't want that. Keep in mind, Jason Witten's peak, a lot lower than Travis Kelce, 9 straight seasons of that. Like, it's just kind of a position where grit and like know-how can like get you 800 yards, you know? And we don't normally do this type of thing on the show. It's a pretty data-driven show. The rumblings from the team and from Mahomes and his brother, like his brother was like crying on their podcast this week about being like, people are being like unfair to Travis Kelce. Like
Jason Kelce was crying.
Yeah. There's like a clip going around of him of being like, people don't understand what they're watching. Travis is doing X, Y, and Z. Pat, did his, we're trying to get him the ball and we can't, they're sending 3 guys at him on every play. We're figuring it out. It's okay. And Reed has been talking about it.
Kermit.
It's a pretty good
good Mahomes. I didn't know you Pete's got the best impression of you. I didn't know you had the best impression.
Now I want to hear Pete do an impression of Davis, do an impression of Mahomes. And
me too, man.
The thing is that my actual speaking voice is like pretty close to his to begin with, so it's not much of a stretch.
I didn't know you could do the accent. It's great.
All that to say, Kelsey is scoring a touchdown this week. Now I don't know how many receptions he's getting on top of that, but he is scoring a touchdown this week. So do with that information what you want to do.
Yeah, bring some ball knowledge. Go ahead.
So we have the Andrews mega bust, right? It's over. He's not running any routes. Kelsey's 85% route participation. He's still out there all the time, and he's been double covered on 30% of his routes. And Rashee Rice only 20%, which is 36th percentile for wide receiver. Kelsey in the 82nd percentile for a tight end. So
I was going to say that's a lot for a tight end.
It's a lot for a tight end. So defenses are still saying you're not beating us with Kelsey. They're also double teaming Worthy. He's at 30% as well. So they're taking away the deep threat and they're taking away the comfort blanket. But Rashee Rice is just racking up targets in the meantime.
That's the thing is Rashee is just on another use your NFL Pro subscription and just go watch some of these RPOs they do with Rice.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing you can do. You are just giving up a first down. He's so good. It's crazy. They have to
start trying to take it away.
Yeah.
Right? Like don't defenses have to shift? I think if it's not the Kelsey stuff is not crazy to me because if the defenses shift to say actually Rice is not who's beating us, then Kelsey should be fine because they want him to get him. They want to get him the ball still.
Yeah, no, I like the bringing the bit of ball knowledge to the data show in general. I'm never opposed to a little bit of narrative, as long as it's not like, oh, it's a birthday, as long as there's like, to me, there's something to the narrative and the field isn't doing it, then I kind of like it. So I like the Kelsey call out. Any other Rashee Rice? You already mentioned Davis. I thought you wrote up Xavier Worthy in a piece of content earlier. Do you want to say anything about Xavier Worthy?
Well, it's just like he's 5,700. And much like he's kind of like the Anthony Richardson of wide receivers, matchup, none of that stuff does not apply.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
does he make the last defender miss? And if he does, you're going to want to have had him. I mean, people are all down on Worthy. They're saying like, oh, the Chiefs stink. They're so boring. And by people, I mean me. But Worthy was on his, I can't remember if it was his third reception or his second. It was on the right side of the field. The corner just got him. Got like his left quad and was able to get him down. But if Worthy had like just gotten past, he was gone for a 70-yard touchdown. And then we're doing the Chiefs are back. They're the greatest. You know,
it's a shame that the defenders can get him by like blowing out birthday candles. You know.
Yeah, this is a good
the downside to Worthy. If they touch him, it's down.
Career broken tackles for Xavier Worthy over under 0.5.
I'll take the under. Yeah, it's not great, but he's fast. Yeah. So as long as he's not very fast, as long as they can't blow on him.
He's honestly faster than I thought he would be. Like watching them play, he honestly is fat. Like it's like Andy is gonna figure this out because he actually is as good as I thought he was gonna be. They're not quite there yet.
He has the NFL speed for sure. It's real.
Yeah.
I'll just note McConkey is a guy who is going to draw a lot of targets. He's already at 29% targets per route run, 1.85 yards per route run. He hasn't run a ton of routes, but he ran more routes last week with Palmer out. It sounds like Palmer's going to be back, but he's still interesting to me as like just a volume play, and he's only 4,800. So, I think he could pretty easily beat that tag.
Yep. And nobody will play him in this matchup. I know I tried doing it against like the Panthers early in the year, but the Chiefs, I think nobody's going to play McConkey. So I think that's a good, like just for the largest field GPPs, of course. But it's good call out. And then the only other game is a FanDuel only game. So for people on FanDuel, we do have the Bills at the Ravens on the slate as well. And to me, this looked like almost a complete stay away, which you wouldn't expect for two like pretty good offenses, but just the pricing to me, there was nobody that really stood out except for Zay Flowers at 6,700.
This matchup.
Yeah, it's like
is Baltimore going to try and be stubborn and run? Is Buffalo going to be trying stubborn and run, even though the Ravens look like this giga pass funnel? I don't know. Yeah. I really don't know. The thing I would love to see from this game is like a 6-target Mark Andrews game. That would really
me too.
bring me.
God, yes.
God, it would bring me some inner calm.
It's a lot of joy. Yeah, that would be very joyous for me. Yeah.
Especially with my other the two tight ends that I have 15% of in best ball are Mark Andrews and Trey McBride. So with McBride out, I need Mark Andrews to just show some signs of life.
Well, rest assured, all the slappies are doing great this week after the Rico Dowdle touchdown. We're fighting back.
We are fighting back.
Rico Dowdle scored last night. My best ball advance rate literally doubled. I checked on BBM DM this morning. literally doubled. From Rico Dowdle, he didn't even have a good game. He just scored. And my best ball advance rate doubled.
Mine somehow went down. I don't know. I was expecting mine to go up. It actually went down. Yeah. That's a lot of zero RB.
Yeah. I love it.
Oh, well, man. It's not hard to double when the number was, I think, 6.
It's the smaller the number is, it's easier to double.
I assume you also have some CD, some Malik Neighbors, some Dak.
Sure, yeah. I actually weirdly know Wandale. I think someone checked me. Well, Dortch was a better pick than Wandale, and you can only have so many short kings per team.
That's true. Right. There's a limit there.
Yeah.
All right, so we've been through all the games. I did say at the end, just to give people kind of an overview of like our favorite plays. And I don't know if anybody has given a lot of thought to how they want to answer this, but let's talk about just like who are you guys' favorite stacks? If you limit it to like 2 or 3 favorite stacks, who would you be going to?
Kyler Higgins top. Sorry, Corinne. Kyler Higgins top. Stroud, Nico, Schultz 2, Burrow, Chase, pick a Panther, bring back 3.
I think, the Kyler, Harrison, Higgins is probably one for me, and I really like the Brian Robinson bring back there. And then Stroud, Nico Schultz, I think. But the reason I don't have that one is because the Nico hamstring. Because I would be pretty into, if he was like limited, I'd be pretty into Stroud, Diggs, Schultz there. But I think if Nico looks right, I want to play it through him. So those would be the top 2 stacks for me.
Yeah, I love those calls. Those are probably exactly where I'm going. I love the Kyler with Marvin Harrison. Just really hard to not want to play them against the Commanders. And I like Higgins thrown in there as well, just to bring down the cost of the stack in the tight end spot. So love that one.
I think I'll also force a Caleb DJ Moore of some version. And I don't know, like it probably won't project that well or sim all that well, but I think I'm going to I ran 6 lineups last week. I'll probably do that again. I think I'm just going to make sure one of them scaled.
Yep. I like that call out of Caleb. I think that is a strong, pretty contrarian stack there. And I also like the Brian Robinson bring back is, I think, going to be less chalky than the Terry McLaurin bring back. So I like that call out on the Arizona stack. I love the CJ Stroud with Nico, and probably we didn't even talk about, are there any tertiary receivers that come up there? I don't think so. So it's probably just Nico and CJ Stroud. I was looking for like Xavier Hutchinson, John Mechie. Can somebody play like the Noah Brown?
The thing is that Xavier Hutchinson and Robert Woods split the fourth role, and I don't have any conviction that one of them is just going to step into 80% of the routes.
Yeah. So it's probably just Stroud and Schultz, or even you could go the expensive route, Stroud with Diggs and Nico. Yeah, just go the 2 receivers instead. I think that's also viable. I like to do the bring back. I know we talked about that earlier. I think I'm more inclined to do a bring back of Christian Kirk or Brian Thomas Jr. Or Brenton Strange even would be, I would consider there. But yeah, definitely not something you need to do. I'm trying to see if there's any other like off the wall stacks that we haven't really given much. I think we talked about the Burrow a little bit. I like that. I think Fields. I do think Fields to Pickens, just like that skinny stack. Yeah. I do kind of like it with no bring back for me. I probably wouldn't play any Colts in that one, but just a Fields to Pickens. I could see that being a 60-point kind of stack there. That it's going to go really low owned. So I would throw that one in there as a stack I like. What about just favorite? Give me a couple of plays that you would flag plant that are under like 5% projected ownership. Does anybody have any super contrarian plays that stand out to you as going to be your?
I don't really do that anymore. I just do what the computer says. But I will flag plant Justin Jefferson. How about that? Find a way, if you're going to do 5 teams, figure out a way, punt tight end, use do whatever you got to do. Play one Justin Jefferson, just kind of every week.
Sometimes it's just that simple. Go ahead.
For me, it's Harrison. If he could be in that range, right?
He'll be like, I doubt he gets to 10%. Yeah, because
he's projected for less.
Worse than Rice, and he's $100 more.
Yeah, so I mean that'd be the flag point for me, because especially you're in the right game environment, you're stacking it, you're double stacking it if you include Higgins. So I mean it's fun to be in the right game environment, different than everybody else.
Yep, agreed. Get a little leverage on the field there. I kind of already gave my like Galaxy Brain stack, which I think is the Pickens and Justin Fields stack. I kind of like the secondary, or the primary, I guess, Packers receivers. I think Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs. If Jordan Love is back, I would consider them kind of going to come in at really low ownership, because I think people forget how good they were as an offense with Jordan Love there. So I think maybe you get a little bit of reduced ownership there. Vikings defense has also been just awesome this year, so hoping that keeps up. But I think that those Packers receivers are somewhat Galaxy Brain this week, and pretty interesting to me.
They're not really that Gal Brain if Love goes, though. They're just under the radar, right?
Yeah, I guess similar to Justin Jefferson. It's like, this is not Galbrain at all. It's just like, for some reason, these guys are not getting any kind of love this week, and those are sometimes the best plays in tournaments, is when they're not actually Galbrain, but just, I think that's a good call. Just under the radar there. Anything else? Any other favorite plays that we just need to mention in a summary of the show?
I think the one thing to just be aware of is that, like, if you like a wide receiver value below 5,000, any of these guys, it's going to be really unique, and it's going to put you on like a good, and it's really going to help. Like, it's going to supercharge your results if you're right, because running back's pretty easy. Quarterback's pretty easy. Tight end's pretty like the values are all right there. But I'm looking at my sim stuff right now. I have no wide receiver below 5,400 making it in 7% or more of optimals. And the only wide receiver below 5,400, Darnell Mooney, is 7% of optimals.
I guess my Galaxy Brain call out that again, I don't know if it's Galaxy Brain or under the radar here, but projection doesn't project that well. So somewhat Galaxy Brain is just leaning into the Roshan Johnson rumblings of like maybe he is sort of the lead back this week, a little bit more involved in the passing game. So I do really like Roshan Johnson in a great matchup with the Rams, potentially an expanded role. So I think he's a like sort of under the radar play at the very least, who I have a lot of interest in. And Brenton Strange, for whatever reason, projected for like 0 ownership. I would guess that's going to come out, I guess, as it becomes more definitive that Evan Ingram is out again. But for a guy who's got 12 targets the past couple weeks, I don't really understand how he's going so under the radar. But I like that play as well. All right, I think we've probably.
I'm slightly intrigued by these two. We talked about them, but Tutu Atwell and Lad McConkey, like the cheap. These are 2 cheaper receivers that no one's going to play, and like I think both the target earning on both looks pretty good so far. You're not loving the offenses, this week, but they could potentially be the number ones in their offense at 4,800 each. So
I think those are good call outs. Obviously, Deontay Johnson, another play that he's just chalk, so probably not worth mentioning. But people, if you just want to remind, he is a very good play. I think he's
pretty good chalk, though. I think.
Yeah, I think he's not bad.
He is good chalk. Bengals defense stinks.
Yeah.
Dalton revenge. Dalton had 44 dropbacks last week, in a game that they just was not in doubt from the first drive. Like I wonder if there's a little bit of Canales.
It's Shawshank.
Canales is like, I'm good.
Do you see how much Bryce was holding me back? Like now I'm free. See what I can do.
The rain is falling. He's out, dude. He's out. Andy Dalton.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Feels that way. All right. I think that does. I think we've given enough of our thoughts here at the end. Davis, what do you have going on the rest of the weekend? Where can people find your stuff?
I've got a bunch of content. Should be 6 videos were out already this week on my YouTube. I will be streaming on Sunday morning for the Fantasy Football Countdown. I will be on from 8:30 a.m. to around I suppose noon kickoff. And there we go. Come hang out.
Right on. Pat, how about you?
Check out the walkthrough. We'll cover all the games on the main slate that was out this morning. LegendaryUpside.com. Also have Matt Irby's Quick Slants covering the Sunday night game, which will be out tomorrow morning, and the 2 Monday Night Football games this week. We got weekly rankings, rest of season rankings, Stephanie Miller's waiver wire article, and Sacrilegious has been doing some cool best ball stuff as well. So check all of that out. LegendaryUpside.com. Only $10 a month, $99 for the year.
Yep, and I have my today already out. I have my tournament strategy article at 4for4 is a full game by game breakdown looking at defensive results so far, usage stats for each team, given some of my favorite plays. Has a cheat sheet at the beginning, so you can check that out if you have not already signed up for 4for4. Also did a cash game article, which is out. Both of those I'll have to tweak over the weekend because we keep getting injury news, but it's mostly all set for what I knew, yesterday, as of yesterday. So check those out. If you haven't already done so, you can sign up for 4for4. They are behind the paywall. But that is going to do it for this stream. Thank you, Davis and Pat, as always, and all of you for hanging out with us. We will be back next week on Friday.